I'd like to welcome you all, first of all, to this session. Thank you, Paul Lambis, who's not in the room, but for organising yet another successful Cyprus Diaspora Forum, the second iteration. I want to welcome to the panel High Commissioner Fiona McCurgo from the Australian High Commission, Mr. John George Mavrocordatos from the South African Honorary Consul, His Excellency Oren Anolik from the Israeli Embassy, and Panayotis Yakovidis from Volt Cyprus. Before we start, I just want to know quickly from the audience where people are from. So I'll just list some countries, just put your hand up. Who's here from Australia? Okay, South Africa? Okay, the UK? Oh, it's all even so far. And just from Cyprus? Okay, you need to leave. Just kidding. No, that's good. Okay, we got a good mix. And any other countries I haven't said that are here? The US. US, of course. I didn't see you there. Okay. Well, okay. Thank you. That's great to know. I'm going to begin, first of all, just a quick lightning round. I'm just going to ask everybody to introduce themselves and just give us one or two sentences about who they are and also what they like most. The first, well, sorry, actually, John and Panayotis are from Cyprus. I want you to give me just one sentence of what you like most about Cyprus before we get into the question round. Fiona.
Fiona McCurgo, Australian High Commissioner. I've been here just over 3 years, and what I like about it is the complexity of this island.
Well said.
Thank you, Fiona. I'm John Mavrocordatos. I'm the Honorary Consul of South Africa. I was actually born in Cyprus, so I do like it by virtue of my birth here. But seriously, it's a very cosmopolitan island, dynamic, and I believe that within the EU there are tremendous prospects for Cyprus as a whole.
So my name is Oren Anolik. I'm the ambassador of Israel here in Cyprus. I'm not going to fall for this trap of trying to point out one thing I like about Cyprus. It's enough to say that I've decided to extend my stay here in Cyprus for another year. It's going to be my 5th year in Cyprus, just to show how much I like the place.
Yes, Panayotis Yakovidis from Volt Cyprus, Secretary of International Relations. I'm a Cypriot, born and raised of French descent partially. What I like the most about Cyprus is our openness to the rest of Europe, to the rest of the world, how ready we are to cooperate internationally with the countries abroad.
What I should mention now, while I've got you holding the microphone, that Panayotis played for the Cyprus rugby team with a lot of South African Cypriots. And you'll be proud to know, I'll let you make this statement about something that's very famous about this team.
Yes, actually, the rugby union team, we have the world record for consecutive victories, which is 24. We passed South Africa by 7, yes, as you know. But actually, the most important thing, which this team made us see and made us dream, is that our diaspora played an instrumental role because we recruited Cypriots from all over the world, especially UK and South Africa, and they helped us go to the top of the world for a sport that was unknown to the island back in the day.
So yeah, it's a world record that's a little bit more interesting and impressive than the guy that has all the glasses on his head from Aradipur. Just broke the record 2 weeks ago, but yeah. All right, we'll move into the first round of intense questioning and spotlighting. I'll start again with Fiona next to me. Since arriving in Cyprus and continuing on, the relationship between Cyprus and Australia is a special one. It's different to the one between, let's say, Cyprus and the UK, which has regular connections of people coming and going 2-3 times a year. It's made up mainly of Australian Cypriots that live in Cyprus or Cypriots that are in Australia. This last week, I've heard you twice now make the commentary about how the relationship is changing lately, that it's not just about the family links. There's more of a bond between Cyprus and Australia in a different realm now, regarding like the evacuations and whatnot. So I thought that was maybe something interesting that people would like to hear about, how Cyprus and Australia are working together in that realm.
Thanks, Costa. As I said earlier in the week, the profile of Cyprus has certainly changed definitely over the last 2 years. Cyprus's role in assisting Australians leave a conflict zone and travel back home during tense times really solidified Cyprus's profile. But that's a profile that's already built on a lot of people-to-people links. You know, we have anywhere between 60 and 80,000 Cypriots in Australia, the second largest diaspora and 10% of the population that live in Australia. And, you know, 20,000 of those come home every summer. I say home, they come back to Cyprus for extended periods. So there's a high amount of travel despite the tyranny of distance. Flying 24 hours is nothing for Cypriots in Australia to come home and spend a few months here. But yes, our profile has definitely changed for the better.
Thank you. John, we obviously know that there's a lot of South African Cypriots now on the island, especially in the Bafos region. How do you see the movement of Cypriots towards Cyprus? What's appealing to them here?
Thank you, Costa. The movement of Cypriots out of South Africa, for various reasons, some of it not quite positive, but certainly we are seeing a number of Cypriot South Africans who wish to make Cyprus their home for professional reasons, for business reasons, because Cyprus is a very good base for as a tax jurisdiction, as well as a business-friendly environment. So I'm seeing a lot of that happening at the moment from the Cyprus Diaspora in South Africa. And then we have what I call the South Africans, which are born and bred in South Africa, who taken advantage of the very attractive Cyprus permanent residency program, and they've made Cyprus their home. They feel they want to be near Europe, they feel secure here, safe, and Cyprus appeals to them, being in a geographically very attractive position, not just vis-a-vis the EU, but the Middle East as well. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Oren, what do you see the benefits for Cypriots learning from the Israelis around the world in the diaspora? We know that there are communities all around the world, and we know that a lot of them are best practice for building bridges back home, whether they're cultural or business bridges. I'd like to hear from you what you think Cypriots can learn from your people around the world as a best practice example, perhaps.
Well, it is true that I think that Israel is a bit unique in the sense that we, the Jewish people, was living in the diaspora for almost 2 millennia before starting to return to its homeland in the end of the 19th century. And for this reason, we have Jewish communities all over the world in the most peculiar places you can think of. And when Israel was established in 1948, those relations between Israel and the diaspora became an important part of our, I would say, national resilience. This network of communities all over the world is very important for us in very different ways. Part of it is this joint cultural heritage, the fact that we have all those people around the world that understand us, that knows where we come from, that we can have this connection with them, and they have this connection with us, and they feel that they have a second home wherever it is. It's a national strength spread all over the world in a network. Then we have all those issues such as mutual support. We can see that when we need it, we can get support from our Jewish communities all over the world. It can be material support, donations, money, investment. It can be a political support vis-a-vis their own governments trying to advocate for Israel as well, and vice versa. We are very much trying to be helpful in combating anti-Semitism, which unfortunately became more. It happens more than we used to see in the past in recent time, and we are trying to be helpful in this regard, including, for example, speaking with local governments about the need for security for Jewish communities. But it goes beyond this. It goes into cultural exchanges. It goes into educational programs that we have, and the effort of trying to bring young Jewish people to understand also Israel. We have programs such as Birthright, in which we actually pay for young Jewish people to come and spend a few weeks in Israel to understand what Israel is all about. We have another program called Masa, in which we bring them for a whole year to study in Israeli universities, and so on and so forth. There are plenty of, I mean, I can speak for another half an hour, but to give the sense of it, it's part of our national resilience and national security, I would say.
It's interesting that you mentioned the cultural exchanges and the Jewish people coming into Israel, because for those that are familiar with Nepomac is a group of youth of Cypriot origin from around the world. They're in every corner of the planet, and they come to Cyprus once a year or once every 2 years, depending on budgets. And they come into Cyprus, these young people. They spend time at the University of Cyprus learning the language. They go around the island visiting the historical sites. And they kind of get a crash course for 1 or 2 weeks. Christina, you can confirm, it's about a week or two, right? It's 1 month, I'll take that back. Yeah, and they get a crash course on Cypriotness, let's say. So I think that's something that's very similar between the two communities. Thank you very much. Panayoti. Now, Panayoti is obviously not a diplomat, coming from the political realm now, but you lived in France for a while. You have French origin, so there is diaspora links there. Tell us a little bit about your work with the Cypriot and the French business links and the chambers that you mentioned to me.
Yes, so for 9 years I was president of the French Cypriot Chamber of Commerce, which is, the headquarters are in France. And obviously as a Chamber of Commerce, our main purpose was the trade, the exchange, building a basis for further collaborations in business, but also in culture, etc. I have to say that the diaspora of Cyprus and of Greece, of course, it has been instrumental in helping us to build the links, both with private as well as with public authorities, and giving us the opportunity to build bridges, to open doors that we wouldn't be able normally. And they also supported our actions, our activities, and the success of the Chamber of Commerce for the past decade has been mainly due to the diaspora there.
So most of the trade growth and whatnot was between Cypriots in France or French in Cyprus, or?
It was both ways. The purpose was to build it both ways, and without restrictions. And of course, every Chamber of Commerce, as a Chamber of Commerce, we also invited French-speaking people who are not French to come into Cyprus to invest, or we opened the world for Cypriots to see other French-speaking countries.
Yeah. Yes. So I have to say that I didn't rate France so much with the Cypriot diaspora, and just during this conference alone, I'll just do a quick scan. There's been a few French people that I've bumped into, and I found that quite impressive, because I never thought of France as a traditional trade partner of Cyprus. So it's good to see that that's starting to develop. Obviously, once Cyprus joined the EU 20 years ago, it made it a lot easier. John, if I could jump back to you, do we have any numbers on the number of South Africans in Cyprus, and give or take what they're mainly focused on?
Yes, of course these are estimates. If we are talking about South Africans who live here, the number is between 5,000 and 8,000. Mainly retirees on the one side, and then we also have business owners who set up their companies in Cyprus, not necessarily doing business in Cyprus, but using their company, the Cypriot company, for tax reasons here, to trade and to provide services all over the world.
What I think was interesting that you mentioned to me yesterday when we spoke about the South Africans that are now the biggest investors in Cyprus.
Yes.
Could you tell us just
Sure.
a couple of sentences on that?
In the last 6-7 years, South Africans, businesses, investors, have taken a very, very leading position as foreign investors in Cyprus, to the extent now that in the pharmaceutical industry, the biggest company was owned by South Africans. I'm not sure if it still is, but they bought into this company. And then South African investors are involved very much in property, and specifically commercial malls. And what is pleasant for Cyprus is that amongst these investors is the South African State Pension Fund.
Yep.
They own the Mall of Cyprus, they own the Mall of Engome, and they also invest in another 150 million or so into the proposed new mall of Limassol, which will make them the single biggest foreign investor in Cyprus, which I think is wonderful for Cyprus to have such funds and investors in the economy.
And it's not the traditional market. I mean, Cyprus has obviously been diversifying its sources of foreign direct investment over the last few years, away from Russia, as we know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's interesting. I know that most people will not realize that South Africa is so invested in Cyprus.
It is very much so. And in addition, we also have other smaller investors who are very involved in property development, in owning smaller commercial buildings. But they're quite active here because they see Cyprus as basically same time zone,
Yep.
same language. They see it as a sort of a natural extension, and from here to expand further into Europe.
Correct. Cyprus can easily be a bridge between Europe and the Middle East as well. So
And the Middle
access
East.
to the Middle East, European Union membership.
Absolutely.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Ambassador, we mentioned yesterday when we spoke that traditional tourist markets in Cyprus have in the past been Russians, British, and so forth. But you gave me an interesting statistic yesterday when you said that Israelis now, per capita are the biggest source market. But in overall numbers, do we have figures?
Yeah, we know that last year there were about 400,000 Israeli tourists coming to Cyprus, which makes us the second biggest after the British. But per capita, it makes us even bigger than the UK.
And from what I understand, they're also one of the highest per person spending per day.
That's what I saw as well in the media last week, that apparently the Israeli tourist is the biggest spender here in Cyprus, with I think about 200 euros per day, which is, I'm sure, very good for the Cypriot economy. But I have to say, a bit surprising for me personally, but yes.
The population of Israel is?
About 10 million.
So you're looking at 120, I think I'm doing my maths right? 1 in 20 visit Cyprus every year?
I take your words. Your words for it. He's not doing the math.
We're not
myself.
mathematicians on here.
Yes. But you know, if you...
1 in 25.
1 in 25?
But
Okay.
if you look, some of them are returning tourists, but the year before we had 300,000 plus, so it's very rare now to find Israelis that haven't actually came to Cyprus for a visit. That's how it is.
Yeah.
We also have a growing community in Cyprus itself. Nobody knows the exact numbers of this because most of them come here with European passports, so they're not registered Israelis. But our estimation, we're talking about between 15 to 18,000 Israelis living these days now in Cyprus, and also contributing here to the economy as well. If it's in the hotel business or high tech or other or fintech or other sectors.
Thank you. Commissioner, we see Australia changing its traditional role over the years, but in the past versus today, where do you think the strengths are in the relationship between Australia and Cyprus? Would it be in the NGO sector? Is it in the business realm? Where do you see the strengths and where is the room to improve?
It's a challenge, tyranny of distance, and it's often the soft diplomacy. Traditionally, it's been the familial connection. So everyone's got a cousin, aunt, a grandfather, a nephew in Australia. So that is what the basis of so many of the relationships are. There's potential in terms of tertiary education. It's a very expensive option for Australians. We don't have free education like Cypriots, and so if you've got a dual passport, coming here is 5,000 for an undergraduate versus 35,000. So there's big differences and there's opportunities there, but it still remains a challenge in terms of things like trade until we get an EU FTA. And partly we have a significant amount of exports from Cyprus to Australia, and you won't be surprised to know that that's halloumi. The trade imbalance is significant. Tourism is another one in terms of inbound Australians, but it's the tyranny of distance. But it's very hard to track trade because a lot of it's through the EU.
Yeah.
So whether
bounces
it's through
out of
Greece,
somewhere else and just-
So
yeah.
it's very hard to actually determine that. And while there's appetite for a free trade agreement, there's a few more players to negotiate with on that front.
I've seen over the last 5-6 years, and especially since Brexit, I'm a bit more interested in whether Australians come into Cyprus for the medical school, for example. There's a few Australian students there. But I've also heard a lot more people talking about studying in Australia, seeing as the UK now is full fee paying.
There is an interest. Our education systems are not necessarily like for like, and I think one of the biggest challenges is getting that accreditation of the university system here and accredited to Australians, so it's considered the same standard. The appetite for Australians to come to Cyprus and study, particularly in the medical fields, because it's a demand, it's a supply driven, we don't have enough doctors and allied health specialists, is they'll come and study 3 out of a 4-year degree in Cyprus and then matriculate to, say, a German university or a Dutch university and finish their final year there, because it means they can then go and study on, if they do it through a European university, they can then go and study in practice in Europe. So there's a huge opportunity, but having like for like. The challenge for Cyprus is it's a small market. Your university systems don't have as many options that Australians are looking for in terms of tertiary education. We have a much more flexible and pragmatic system, but also it's not free, so there's not that many people that go on and do masters and PhDs because it's a very expensive option.
And I think a lot of the people that do end up studying in Australia are actually those that have family down there, so maybe they've got free accommodation.
Correct.
So the cost balances out. Although I think the one good thing I've seen coming out of Australia is that whilst a lot of students are studying their bachelors in Europe, some of the postgraduate expertise, like there's an oceanographer, for example, who's living in Jervis Bay, and he's been working there because he's an oceanographer. The Pacific is where he wants to focus. He didn't want to be in the US anymore, so Australia was a much more appealing place. So it's got a lot of, I think people see Australia as a very high caliber education and scientific centre, so that's quite appealing for people. If I may jump over to you, Panayoti. Now, the difference between, obviously, representatives of states as a political party, things are very different. Now, there is a diaspora element to Volt. Could you elaborate on that?
Yes, definitely. Volt Cyprus is part of the umbrella of Volt Europa, so we are a pan-European political movement, and our main interest is creating a bigger Europe, a stronger Europe, a Europe where all countries are moving parallelly on the same level of development and prosperity. And definitely diaspora has been something instrumental for us as well. On one hand, we have the Cypriots living abroad in various countries of Europe who are volunteering their time into Volt, and through that they're helping us with policies, with ideas, even with actions and different things that have to be done. But also Volt as a pan-European party, as a single, let's say, umbrella for different chapters, kind of represents us in Europe. And it's like we have a technical, in a way, diaspora, not necessarily being Cypriots, but they are representing our interests, both in economics as well as in politics and whatever we need. And very recently we had a discussion and we said that Cyprus has 6 MEPs in the European Parliament, but Volt made sure that these 6 became 11. We have also the 5 MEPs of Volt who understood the complexities, as you said, Your Excellency, before, of Cyprus, and are helping us to find better solutions, not only to the Cypriot problem, but also to topics like infrastructure, education, health services, whatever is could be better coming from Europe. So we have both ways diaspora in a way.
That's true. It's interesting that we always think of diaspora as being the ethnic people from a certain country, but here we have political diaspora. And as we saw in the last week, we had people from Volt Spain, Germany, Netherlands, Portugal, and Volt Europa all visiting Cyprus and having high-level meetings with mayors and whatnot, and taking messages back to Brussels and speaking in Parliament on behalf of Cyprus, which was really good. So whether you're a Volt supporter or not, you have these extra 5 voices in Parliament. Now, I'm aware of the time. We have 4 minutes left before everyone has a nice lunch break outside. I want to do one last lightning round. I'm going to leave the floor open to make a comment or a suggestion or an observation. that you would like to make with this opportunity with the audience now? I'll jumble it up a little bit. I'll come to you, Ambassador.
I was not prepared for this. May I suggest instead, can we, maybe the audience want to ask a question? I mean, is it possible?
Sure.
Do you think we'll have a tax treaty between Cyprus and Israel? Because it's one of the big stumbling blocks, because we actually, I'm proud to say, we've got invested in Israel and we have Israeli investors in Cyprus, so we work both ways. But one big stumbling block is the tax treaty, and we're losing a lot of business because there is a better tax treaty in Greece and in some other countries.
So I'll start by saying, yes, that the trade between the two countries is growing and investments are growing as well. And there is clearly an interest from the business community to try to reach an agreement on prevention of double taxation. I must say very honestly that this is something that our Ministry of Finance is not keen to have, but the leaders have discussed the possibility. There is, I cannot call it negotiation, I can say there is exchange of ideas between the Cypriot government and the Israeli government on this issue. We have many concerns in this regard, and we want to make sure that if such an agreement would be reached, our concerns would be addressed. I am not 100% certain that this will happen, but there is I will quote a UN official who refuses to call what is happening right now on the Cyprus issue as a process. He calls this a sequence of events. So I would say there's no process maybe, but there is a sequence of events to discuss the possibility of a double taxation treaty.
Thank you. John, would you like to?
Thank you.
It's on.
Thank you. Yes, what I've seen and what I've noticed as regards the South African diaspora on the educational side and the qualification side, Cyprus is not doing enough for accreditation. We have a strange situation here where we have a large number of medical students here, and yet the Cypriot Medical Council does not recognize South African medical qualifications, which, as we all know, are of a very high standard. And we are working on with the Education Department as well as the Ministry of Health to try and get that sorted out, because it discourages a lot of professionals from seeking opportunities in Cyprus.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Fiona?
I'm going to take the advantage and do two things. Double taxation agreements. There is a commitment from the Australian government to start negotiations on a double taxation agreement. How easy that will be is a question a lot of people are asking, and we're in the first step of the process to exchange information. So hopefully that will actually also increase trade. My real point is, when I talk diaspora, I'm talking Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots. We have both communities in Australia, and they're very well integrated. Like many people that perhaps left for economic reasons or were refugees, true refugees in terms of not displaced people, but actually have left their country, they make a new way in the world, and they're often very progressive. They're focused on their future. They don't forget their past, but they're not necessarily held back by their past. And I was having a chat to the Honorary Consul here about as a result, they become an untapped human capital asset there. It's a wealth of resources that's undervalued, I think. And the reason I think it's undervalued is because you don't vote. If Cypriots overseas, and 50% of the population live outside Cyprus, if they were enabled to vote, not even if all of them, but some of them were able to vote, you would change the perspective of how the systems here view that diaspora. And I think it would also be a positive for Cyprus, as they could influence the systems, bring back their progressive thinking, and you might actually get some progress on many fronts.
Thank you. It's interesting you mentioned about Turkish Cypriots, because there were very, very few represented, unfortunately, during this conference. But maybe it's worth mentioning the Turkish Cypriot angle of Volt. I mean, this is quite important with your last comments.
Yes, definitely. You said Turkish Cypriots and progressive, and this is what Volt represents. We are the first bi-communal party in Cyprus, so we not only we allow, but we also invite Turkish Cypriots to participate with us in the campaigns, in the policy making, and something, because we do feel that it's the same country and we have to develop it properly. And it has to include everybody. And inclusion is a head topic for us. And generally, my final word would be that Volt, most important thing for Volt is international cooperation, especially European cooperation. Together we can do more things. And in everything, in policy, in economics, in business, in politics. And we are trying to find a way to cooperate, to make more international aspects. To united we are better. And also, we have more things that unite us than things that separate us. And this is what we are trying to instill in the society of Cyprus.
I think if I can just add to you, for transparency, I'm also a member of Volt, so that's why I know a little bit about them. It's probably worth mentioning that the General Secretary and 2 other members of the Political Bureau are Turkish Cypriots. So it's not just lip service, they're actually involved and in decision-making positions.
In decision-making positions, they participate in all the actions and activities, and they share the same values as us to find a peaceful solution for our Cypriot problem. But this, combined with a prosperity, with social cohesion, with technological advancement, with education, with healthcare, not just finding a solution, but making our country better, greater.
Thank you. Okay, I know that we've run out of time. We're 4 minutes over. Is there any last question somebody wants to make that's quick? Nope. Going once, going twice, done? All right. Thank you very much, panelists. Enjoy your lunch, people.